Hey guys, this is MugenLord here, and I'm back again with another video. And today I just want to talk about fighting games because this year, 2022, has been interesting for the genre as far as I'm concerned, and especially more specifically after EVO 2022. We had some cool announcements, more specifically Samurai Showdown getting rollback netcode, and not just that, Garo 2 was officially announced, and then of course we had gotten the reaction that I gave you guys with the reveal of Jory Han and of course a new character Kimberly in Street Fighter 6. It's been a ton of good news going on, and I'm really happy as a fighting game fan, and I'm pretty sure that you guys are as well. Now, the reason why I wanted to make this video is because Capcom and SNK had pretty much pulled up something that got fans going a little bit crazy right now. Now, we have seen hints of this during EVO 2022, and if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, Capcom and SNK, of course, appeared at both events, both producers of both titles, King of Fighters 15 and of course Street Fighter 5. They were both there, and they was passing around or showing off some promotional art showing both Capcom and SNK for, I guess you could say, gags. Show these two properties once again going head to head with one another. Now, people were tweeting this a while ago, and people were speculating, is Capcom and SNK going to create a new Capcom versus SNK 3 or a potential title in the works of some sort? And many people was hoping that that would be the case when they was pretty much showing off the fan art. Now, just want to make this clear, I'm all up for this if it does happen, but at the time of the reveal of the artwork, they were just saying, hey, it's just promotional, we just having fun. But in my opinion, I was saying that, I don't know, man, you don't just play around with something like that knowing that the fans really want to see something like this happen, because if you guys are too young to remember, but Capcom and SNK had done a crossover in the past, and in my opinion, most people will arguably say it's one of the best crossover fighting games ever made, especially on a competitive level. So more specifically, Capcom versus SNK 2 or CVS 2. Now, where I'm getting at with this, well, in a recent article that popped up yesterday, both producers of King of Fighters and Street Fighter has said that they're definitely interested in doing a brand new potential crossover in the near future. But in my opinion, if producers are saying something like that, to me, in my opinion, I really think that they're actually working on it right now. So we're going to dive into this article that speaks a bit more about it, and I'm super excited to see if we get a CVS 3 or a SVC part 2 or some sort. So we're going to dive right into it. So it was over at Event Hubs where they talked about this article. Now it says Capcom vs SNK 3. Both sides are interested in making this revival a reality, says SNK producer Oda. Now, Oda is optimistic that Capcom SN3 versus SNK 3 could happen within the next 10 years. That's within the next 10 years. I think we can probably see that within 3 years or 4 years tops. That's what I believe. So it's been nearly 2 decades since Capcom and SNK characters have crossed paths in a Capcom vs SNK themed fighting game. Capcom's last release was Capcom vs SNK 2, Mark of the Millennium, 2001, while SNK last attempt their version of the fighting game series with SNK vs Capcom SVC Chaos in 2003. Now, there was once an attempt to do a Capcom vs SNK 3, but SNK going bankrupt back in 2001. Oh wow, interesting. Didn't know that. Like I said, I wasn't really a big SNK fan. I was more of a Capcom kid at the time too, so I didn't even know they was on the verge of going bankrupt. They were which interfered with the project. I did not know that, and ultimately canceled it outright. Recently, SNK producer Oda talked with VGC about how there's interest from both Capcom and SNK to return to this concept. Those who attended EVO 2022 probably noticed collaborative promotional posters at featured artwork depicting Capcom and SNK characters together. Needless to say, the existence of this promotional art caught the attention of fans and was quite popular at the event. And this was the article, and these were the pictures that I was referring to right here. We have, of course, the new young Capcom producers for Street Fighter 5, and then we have Oda over here representing the SNK side, and you see the art styles for both sides. representing Capcom versus SNK and SNK versus Capcom. And this really had people going crazy. And I was even saying to myself that, wait a minute, are we going to get a new CVS 3? I think that'll be nuts. I'm all for it if that was going to be the case. But as said before, these guys were just playing around with it. But I think that was to gauge the audience and see if this is something that people want, which it should have been obvious from this point. But I digress. We'll continue on with the article. So according to Oda in an interview with VGC, the popularity of this merchandise reconfirmed that there's a huge interest in seeing a Capcom versus SNK revival in the future. Definitely in the future, that's something that I think everybody on all sides and both parties are interested in making a reality, said Oda, when asked specifically if he'd be interested in working on a new SNK versus Capcom title. So, especially after we saw the reaction of the Evo posters, because yes, that had me going nuts as well, it helped us reconfirm that it's probably one of the most wanted things from the fighting game community across the entire world, continued Oda. Duh. It sounds like SNK and Capcom both could be gauging interest with the promotional merchandise. However, Oda was quick to note that nothing is set in stone quite yet. So if they're saying that, they're already in talks, they're already in discussions with it. If they're saying within the next 10 years, they will have to start talking about it now, getting pre-production and everything, and working out the paperwork, whether or not they're going to do two different versions, a Capcom version, and then of course an SNK version, which we'll talk more about in a second. So it sounds like SNK and Capcom, yeah, in interest. All right, we have a lot of experience in crossovers with things like Akuma and Geese and Tekken, Terry Bogard in Fighting X Lair, Terry in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and Biking in Samurai Showdown, said Oda. While SNK has been involving their characters in crossover lately, it's still be a good amount of time since Capcom and SNK have collaborated together regardless. The cross-promotional merchandise at EVO seems to be very promising. That poster at EVO, in our sense, was the first step towards maybe something like that happening in the future. Trust me, it's happening. This is all corporate talk. These guys are talking about it. It's just too random for both Capcom and SNK just to show up at EVO showing this promotional art like that. It just doesn't make sense. How come they didn't do it the previous years? You get what I'm saying? How come they didn't do anything like that before? So to me, them doing that, and plus I think knowing that the responses that fans would get into just like falsely hype up fans, I'm pretty sure they had to talk about it, you know, to the corporate heads of both respective companies before even come together just to do something like that. I don't think they would just do that and then just say, hey guys, you know, it was just something that we just wanted to do. No, I really believe, in my opinion, that they're already in the talks of working this out, and then to give a 10-year I guess you could say estimation of when something like this would happen. These guys are talking about it, best believe it. So how long will we potentially have to wait for Capcom SNK 3 equivalent revival? VGC ponder if it could happen within the next 20 years, but it appears Oda is a little bit more optimistic on that. 20 years is definitely too long for me, as exclaimed Oda. We'll try to get it done in 10 years. If they're saying they're trying to get it done within 10 years, these guys are already in the talks. And I know I'm repeating myself, I'm beating a dead horse with this, but come on guys, there is no way that these guys wouldn't sit there and just create this promotional art and not read in the room when it comes to his fans, just for them to come out and say, hey guys, this is just a joke, we just wanted to do this. There's no way in the world. I'm pretty sure they had discussions in the background and decided to bring this to EVO, where the most competitive of fighters and gamers are at, to show it off. And they know that fans within that community is going to go on Twitter and share and retweet and post it all over the place to get people hyped. It's free marketing for this campaign. So I guarantee you that this is something that's already in the works right now and in discussions, which also brings up, like, Harada, what are you doing with Tekken Cross Street Fighter? We need Tekken Cross Street Fighter as well. We might as well. We should bring back the age or the era of crossover games again. You know, we really haven't had much of that. You know, after Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom, no, I wouldn't say Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I forgot all about Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. But at the Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and maybe Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle, we haven't really had a true definitive crossover fighting games that stuck around for a very long time and that's in the spotlight to get people hyped. And I think Capcom vs. SNK 3 would be a perfect game to actually do that. And I think it'd be one of the biggest crossovers. And someone who's just been getting into fighting games over the past couple, I want to say past couple years, I would say a decade now, because I played fighting games in the past, but I really started playing them within the past decade or so on a much more serious level compared to what I was in the past. Capcom vs. SNK 3, Capcom vs. SNK 2 was a crossover that I never got a chance to really play. I had it. It was released on the Dreamcast, and I remember I live in Philadelphia, so in South Philly there was a comic book shop down on South Street, and I remember my father taking my brother Keel Lantern and I into the comic shop, and they had all these setups, and I didn't know what the FGC was at the time, but they had all these setups there, and everybody had these custom arcade sticks for the Dreamcast. One person had a Sega Genesis 6-button pad. It was custom. It was like a navy blue controller, and had all these colorful buttons for the 6 buttons. And I remember it was a whole setups, all these TVs of everybody playing Capcom vs. SNK 2, and that was the first time I've ever seen the game. And I was super really hyped because I've seen Ryu and Terry Bogard on the same screen. I was like, what game is this? And that was during the height of that game, because everybody was playing it, and no matter what arcade I went to, no matter what venue I went to, they had all these game setups and people were playing it. And I didn't understand the seriousness of it until much later, until I got into Mugen and was reintroduced to Capcom vs. SNK through many of the characters and the projects that some people made within Mugen. And I was like, damn, I really missed out on this, because at that time, now no one is playing it. Arcades don't really exist. Fighting games kind of died down for a little bit, especially in the United States. So it was something that I missed out on. So hopefully, if we happen to get a Capcom vs. SNK 3, I think it would be smart, and I'll say that for another video, that first Capcom and SNK should re-release Capcom vs. SNK 2 and SNK vs. Capcom for the consoles. I think a remaster of that would like hype everybody and get people interested and start having that discussion about Capcom vs. SNK. But we'll talk more about that in another video. I think that should be definitely an entire discussion that we can get into when it comes to that. But that pretty much wraps up this video. I definitely want to hear your thoughts about Capcom and SNK. Really excited and really want to actually do a crossover of Capcom versus SNK 3, and a potential SNK versus Capcom part 2. I think that'd be pretty interesting, and leave your thoughts in the comment sections below about it. And have you ever played CVS2 or SVC Chaos? Leave that in the comment sections below. I want to hear your thoughts. And what was your favorite team? What was your favorite groove and setup for CVS2? Definitely want to know about that. And what other potential crossovers would you love to see in the near future? If you like the video, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and also don't forget to hit that bell to be notified for more fighting game news and RPG news in general. This is MugenLord signing off. I'll see you game fiends later. Peace out.